Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. It's really great, isn't it, when we get motivated? Motivation is awesome, isn't it? You hear a great lecture, you hear some audios, you go to a seminar, webinar, you meet a very more advanced, great speakers, and they give their blessings, and then we go away all fired up, and we want to set our goals suddenly sort of come in front of us. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to be with my spiritual life. This is how much reading I'm going to do. I'm going to do this much book distribution. I'm going to put this amount in on the weekends into more temple, puja, worship, whatever. It's all going to work out. And we maybe we get some of that going. But have you noticed it kind of fizzles out? For most, not all, but for most of us, it's like that motivation sort of leaves us behind, and we don't actually meet those wishes and dreams that we had when we were motivated. And this is a really key point. Then we start to feel bad about ourselves. As devotees, as people, as humans, we start to be, I can't do it. Oh, why? And we get down, we get negative, and we kind of go down into ignorance, tamagun. Start being, maybe I'm not good enough. Then we have negative self-talk, and we just feel really ashamed and guilty that we didn't do what we say we're going to do. And maybe the devotees come up to you, you said that you're going to do all that service, and even you may have said it to your wife or your spouse or your husband or or friends or other devotees. This is what I'm going to do. And then they ask you a month later, how did it go? Oh, well, this happened, that happened. And we beat ourselves up. But I want to let you know that it's not completely your fault why it didn't happen, why it never, the motivation petered out and the action didn't happen. It's because I'm telling you, we're not prepared. We haven't been taught how to activate, how not to rely on motivation. We haven't been taught success principles and mindsets and the skill set, how to actually implement a plan and a goal. That's it. It's not your fault. But it's interesting in psychology that when you say you're going to do something, and every day we don't actually do that thing we say we're going to do, like I'm going to chant my rounds, but I don't. I'm going to do it tomorrow, but I don't. That tells your brain every day as you not do what you say you're going to do, it eats away at you. It actually is very detrimental for your psychology and your thinking. You're no longer susukam kartamabhyam, you're now dukam kartamabhyam, miserably engaged in devotional service. And we don't understand it's this thinking is the key. Because by not acting according to doing what we said we're going to do, it's telling your subconscious that, you don't do what you say you're going to do. Okay. And it becomes a loop. So how do you break out of that? How is it not completely your fault? Well, because you just need to learn how to activate, how to build your goals, set your goals, and then be accountable and have the ingredients in place to actually make it happen. But if you don't know what the ingredients are, if you don't have the supportive environment and ingredients to make that dream come true, then you're going to end up disappointed. And I've seen this so many times. As Prabhupada used to say, actually, it's kind of linked. The problem with the Westerners and in modern culture, Rajagoon, they just can't stick to anything, isn't it? So what we can do is, I didn't do that, but now I'm going to do this, or now I'm going to do that. And we don't stick to anything. We don't mode of goodness. We don't put ourselves in the mode of goodness. We read about the mode of goodness. We read about the goodness, but we don't really necessarily understand the practical way to apply the modes in our lives, how they work. How does it work on the ground level? That's why my program Thriving Bhakti is so grounding. We don't get into all the gloss and high-level tattva truths of hearing about Krishna. That's there. But it's the down-to-earth of how to practically live in this world and make things happen. Like, how do I get my chanting from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 rounds? How do I do that and make it consistent? Right? And the culprit behind why these things are not happening for most devotees is because they They don't know what they don't know. They don't realize it's their own thinking and their own lack of training and skill sets around success principles that's holding them back. It's not actually their fault. I'm just going to let you know, have a bit of relief. If you're struggling how to make things happen to get where you want, it's probably, I say 90% of the time, I can guarantee it's the same issue. We've all grown up in a non-success environments. We haven't grown up learning the habits of success, the thinking of success, understanding how the brain works, how the psychology of the brain. We read about the mind, we read about this in the Shastra, but coming down to the ground. Yeah. So it's very important that we kind of assess the situation very, very, very thoughtfully and understand maybe I don't know how to make things happen. Because we just think it's automatic. I've got a dream, I've got a goal, I want to chant my rounds, and although I'm busy with family, kids, and obligations, because I'm praying and I'm just wishing it to happen, it's just going to happen. But that's not how it works. Yes, the prayer, and that's important, but you need to get the tools and the knowledge how to make it happen. So there are ingredients. So let me give you a practical example. You come out, you listen to an audio, got a workshop or webinar, and you come out going, yes, I am going to chant my rounds every day in one go. Yay. So where are you at right now? Maybe you're doing 4 here, 4 there, maybe missing a few, catching up the next day. This is very common. And then you set yourself this big goal. Yes, from tomorrow, I'm going to chant all my rounds in one go. Mistake number 1, you're jumping. Progression and building is important, but still. So you make this decision. And that's really key. Step 1 to making something happen is make a decision. And that decision has no backdoors. It's there's no compromise. You have to be very, very vigilant. This is my decision, and you write it down. Then you have to find the stage 2, number 2, you need to find a system or a vehicle that's going to actually help you implement it. It's like if I want to bang a nail into a piece of wood, right? If I get a pair of scissors, is that going to work? If I use a feather, a gulab. No, you need to find a hammer. You have to look at what you want to achieve, right? Find the correct vehicle and tool, and then part 3, you need to put in the action behind it. This is a dream or a wish without action, a plan and an action behind it is simply going to remain a dream. Now, when we're talking about sadhana and habits and how do I, manage my life better, how do I build up my chanting to 16 rounds when I'm sporadic and everything, is you need this part 2. And this is where most devotees are struggling. They're going from making a decision, being motivated, this is where I want to be, and then they put in the action, right? But they actually don't have a vehicle, meaning they don't have the tools and the vehicle and the skills how to make that consistent and actually how to build that up. How do you do that? So that's where my Thriving Bhakti ingredients come in. And I'm revealing and showing you the 3 things you need in place, put together. That's the tool, boom, that puts the nail in the wood. Yeah? So what are they? First one is you need to get your thinking right. You have to understand how successful people think. And when I say success, you're thinking, what's that got to do with bhakti? Well, funnily enough, our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada as an example, have success mindsets. They have this emotional resilience. They learn to be flexible. There's certain traits and characteristics of how successful people think. So you've got to get that right first. You've got to move from what we call a fixed mindset. Oh, I'm like that. I can never do it. All that negative thinking, that negative self-talk. You've now got to change that thinking to become one like an entrepreneur, like a spiritual entrepreneur. You've got to be thinking, oh, how am I learning? What's the solution here? What's in my voluntary control? The thinking of successful people is very different to average non-successful people. It's different. So you've got to every day start to cultivate that mindset, which anyone can do, whether you're 50, 40, 20, whatever your gender, your age, your culture. Everyone can learn how to think properly. Because if you don't get the thinking right, there's no hope, there's no confidence, there's no enthusiasm. Utsaha nistiyadaya. If you're not feeling hope and confident and enthused and determined, it's because you've got stinking thinking and you're sitting in the mode of ignorance. Right? And that's because that's how we grew up. Somehow we learned that. That's the kind of default of this world. That's why successful people are very rare. It's not because they're special. It's because they think differently and they've been role modeled, or they've come in contact with a different type of thinking. And that's like Bhagavad Gita, as I always point out. Arjuna had stinking thinking. He was a great soul, a great warrior. Of course, he was put into Maya by Krishna. But for an example, Krishna put him into illusion and said, your thinking's all wrong. It's not what you're doing is wrong. It's it starts with your thinking. So this is what we address. So the first ingredient is your mindset. So you need to have a daily, weekly program, how to keep your mindset on par, on a growth mindset, your self-talk, how you're dealing with problems, how you're dealing with emotional challenges. That's really key. Then the second ingredient is you need know how to set a goal. Like I said, that example of, I'm sporadic with my chanting. Sometimes I have 4 rounds. Sometimes I have to do 16 rounds. Sometimes I miss some the next day. And then you say, tomorrow I'm going to do 16 rounds. Well, that's going into the stress zone, because it's like going in the gym. You haven't been to the gym ever, or maybe a little bit. And then you go in and put 100 kilo weights on everything. You're not going to sustain it. You're going to get a bit of a hype up. You maybe a couple of days you last, then you're sore. So it's all about how to set goals. There's a science to setting goals, how to build up towards a goal. So instead of saying every day I'm going to start 16 rounds in one go, you start with 4. You do that for 30 days. Oh, okay, now I do 6. You start to build a spiritual muscle, and that habit of being consistent by doing small steps that aren't stressful. They're just stretching you a little bit, 1%, 1%, 1%, and you keep that momentum, which is the key. Then you're gonna, when you get to 16, you're gonna be like in the gym. You built up the muscles gradually. You built up the stamina, the consistency, and it has a momentum to it. This is another secret of the science of goal setting and habits, which we don't learn in school. And so it's not your fault. It's not our fault. We weren't taught these things. So once you understand how to set a goal, right? How that goal is to pull you, and also your thinking around goals on this particular video cast or audio. I'm not going to go into all these details. That's what I do in my program. That's why my program is very important, because it takes a little bit of time to get your head around these things. And so you've got them cultivating the mindset of success. You're now developing how to set goals, how to start with small incremental goals that are consistent, that build up over time. Like I have a couple in my Thriving Bhakti program from Wellington, a corporate working Indian couple with a child, and they were just not getting enough sleep. They're doing the pujas in the morning, all the chanting. He was exhausted. His health was really bad. He had heart issues. They were just really struggling, but they were just giving all their time to the temple, all the time outside of that towards preaching and stuff. And I said, hey, this is not sustainable. Let's just adjust a few things. So we managed to just get them to make small steps. And over 90 days, and it's a magic 90 days, they had completely changed everything. Just by showing up to the workshops that I do, the coaching calls, and just showing up every day through the accountability and setting realistic goals and building up over 90 days, they really turned their ship around. And now they have a very balanced life, chanting all their rounds, and it's awesome. So third ingredient is one that it's a tough one, and most people don't think about this one, but it's accountability. You have to be accountable to someone. Okay, maybe some people can manage to be accountable for themselves, but I found that most devotees, people are not very accountable to themselves. If their mind gets on top of them, they take a day off. So accountability is though key though. You've got to be accountable. You've got to show up every day. You've got to have something on your wall where you're ticking it off and you're giving yourself like, yes, I did it today. You're tracking every day those small wins over those days. Not looking looking for perfection. You're looking for progression. Again, mindset. Because what people do is, oh, I did it for 2 weeks and then, oh, last 3 days have been really bad. Oh, what's the point anyway? And boom, down into the mode of ignorance, down into the fixed mindset. It's all about, no, okay, well, I didn't do it today. Now I make up tomorrow. Good. I'm on track. There's always dips and troughs on the way to success, but I'm progressing. So accountability is really cool. Like having, like in my TiB program, we meet up every 2 weeks, just on a call for an hour. And we all share our wins, where we're at. We're a supportive environment. We see everyone's going through the same challenges and we all progress together. And also we show up every day on a little WhatsApp group where we just check in with each other and, and tick off. Did I do what I say I was going to do? Did I not do what I was going to say I was going to do? But you're showing up for yourself and there's accountability. So accountability is, because if you don't have all those three ingredients, the goals, the mindset, and the accountability, you have one of those missing. That's why you're in a loop and why things aren't happening. That's why you're remaining stuck, because you don't have all three and you drop the ball. These three things, keeping the mindset on track, setting your goals realistically, checking in, being coached, having accountability. If you don't have all those three together, most people go off track and they don't manage to sustain. So this is really important. And it shows you that if you didn't know about these three ingredients and you were beating yourself up why you can't change your situation. By the way, these ingredients work for everything, not just increasing your sadhana. How's your marriage going? What's the issues and challenges going on there? Communication with devotees, working, that like all of this can apply to any area of growth in your devotional life, right? But you've got to deal with yourself. You've got to understand that the issue and the problems you have around you, it's not that they're the problem, you're the problem. You've got to get your thinking right about issues, about your challenges that you have. And, a slightly deeper point, and those who progress further into like the TiB program, they go beyond just getting their sadhana together. They actually become leaders. They start to work on deep issues within them. So we have this notion now of spiritual bypassing, where devotees have problems, they're having problems with relationships, problems, in certain areas. And to make up for it, they excel in a particular devotional area to distract themselves from it or to avoid. Avoidance is very, very common in our spiritual journey. And that's why having a supportive environment and a non-judgmental environment where you're actually dealing with the issues that are coming up, not just sadhana and reading, but, relationship issues, personal issues, you can work through them. You can actually not spiritually bypass using Krishna consciousness to avoid dealing with things you should be dealing with that Krishna is showing you should deal with, but in the name of preaching or whatever, you avoid them. And I've been there. I remember for many years, I was doing so much outreach, a lot of outreach. I've been working here in New Zealand for 20 years and, managing the loft outreach there and running a contemporary ashram, cultivating man, going out. But, there were certain things in my personal life that I wasn't dealing with. I was just so absorbed, but I didn't realize I was actually avoiding. And Krishna kind of puts us in the corner eventually. And I was always open to mentorship. I was always trying to apply those three ingredients the best I could. And that was the thing about accountability, is having mentorship, having someone in your life who's feeding back to you what you need to hear. And that's another topic I cover, but not for today, how the mentorship is the most underutilized resource in our Krishna conscious movement. And a lot of mentorship, I think a lot of we don't really understand mentorship that well. I think there's a lot more to mentorship than, from what I've seen and what I've heard and what I see going on in some of the communities. Mentorship is key. That's accountability, right? And having transparency with your mentor. But also being a mentor is also something you have to learn and develop. It's, I'm a mentor now. I'm just going to help this person, tell them what to do. That's not mentorship. Mentorship means you have to grow yourself as a leader and you have to understand how to mentor someone. What does mentorship mean? What's the relationship there? So that's really key. So, spiritual bypassing or not avoiding things we should be dealing with, in ashrams, in your family, even at work or wherever you are, we can often be avoiding situations where when you're growing, personally growing through the accountability, through the goal setting, and through the mindset, you start to deal with things differently. You start to work through those challenges. But for today, I just wanted to talk about how, having that motivation, yay, and you're making a decision. Yes, remember ingredient 1, make a decision. Yes, I'm going to start reading Prabhupada's books every day. Okay. And then you move to action, but you really need, first of all, is what's the system? Where's the support? What's the tools I need to make that happen? This is a huge missing ingredient. I see this in a lot of persons in leadership positions. Yeah. Because you can be a positional person, but are you a leader? And leaders understand these ingredients that you need to give. People need to understand how to implement. So that's, if you follow my podcasts, if you follow any of my YouTube channel and stuff, I'm just, constantly trying to just come from different angles of vision and give knowledge to devotees how they can, if they can learn this mindset, if they can learn how to goal set and how to be accountable. If you put those ingredients together, all of us can just move forward and fast track so much quicker and move through our challenges and issues along the way instead of feeling stuck, right? So being stuck isn't the problem. It's our thinking and how we're dealing with the stuck that's the problem. Being stuck is great. So I'm going to end here. Yes, if you're stuck, good. It's awesome. See, different thinking. You've got to think, well, why am I stuck? What am I meant to learn? What can I learn here? What do I need to do? Turn the mind away from just, oh, I'm stuck, poor me, I'm a worm in stall, Lord Chaitanya, I'm the most fallen. This is spiritual bypassing. You're using Krishna consciousness to justify staying stuck. Yeah? All done it. We all do it. So stop that talk and, stop talking to yourself like that and say to Krishna, what do I need to do? What am I meant to learn? Why have you put me in this situation? How can I control what I control? What can I control here? I can control me. So this is the type of things we learn in my program. This is, it creates transformation and change, which is what we're looking for. We don't want to be stagnant and spinning the wheels in the mud in our bhakti. So if you're the type of devotee out there who, really is motivated, but, doesn't want to get stuck in the mud and, just be a shooting star for a while and go back to how you were, then just plug into these, there's nothing glamour. I'm just like you. I have to deal with issues and challenges. I don't have perfect days and perfect weeks. Let's just get over that, right? But what I say is if you apply these principles and if you follow along and we'll go on a journey together, you'll win 80% of the time. Honestly, we're not here, 100% of the time. I don't know any, I'm just going to, I don't want to be, most devotees, right, are struggling. I don't know any of those who have 100% perfect sadhana every day, perfect everything every day. No. We just want to be successful, which means be winning 80% of the time. When things are going off, we bring it back up. When things are not going in the right direction, we go in the right direction. It's about consistent calibration so you win most of the time. Otherwise, if not, you'll drop below that 80% and it's a gradual decline to almost giving up sometimes and plodding along. And we don't want you to be there and I don't want to be there. But I just wanted to make sure that I'm not a guru. I'm not I'm just like you. I'm a normal, ordinary devotee, but I've learned some things and I'm sharing them because they work and they're actually in our Shastra. If we look at Srila Prabhupada and his ability to just move on, find solutions, he never had a fixed mindset. He always had an expanse mindset. He always saw how things could grow. He never got stuck in problems. He always found solutions, right? He never blamed anyone. He took responsibility. So I want you to understand that this program isn't some sort of material thing. This is just grounding normal language for things devotees should be, applying. To be honest with you, this is mode of goodness. So for not thinking like I've been explaining, and I wasn't, and I'm still trying to learn, I'm still trying to get to the mode of goodness, then we're actually stuck in the lower modes. And we as devotees, we should know these things. We should know these things. But I often think that sometimes because of all the spiritual veneer and gloss, we kind of lose sight of the common sense application of some of these success principles and thinking. And that's something that, that's why I haven't sort of quoted Shastra and quoted shlokas and stuff. There's plenty of that out there. I'm just coming down to earth, Hare Krishna. I'm just coming down to earth, meeting you where you're at, taking those teachings and just getting those basic principles, the foundation. Rupa Goswami says, everything begins with sense and mind control. Not Rasa Leela. This begins with sense and mind control. Meaning you have to have your mind, your thinking right, and your senses right in order to practice. That's the mode of goodness. So we don't want stinking thinking. We don't want lower modal thinking, lamentation thinking, I'm no good thinking, using Krishna consciousness to maintain depression and anxiety and all feeling low and no good. We've got to get over that. That is not going to move you in bhakti. Believe me, it isn't been there. You've got to get out of that stinking thinking. And then from the mode of goodness, Krishna really begins to help. But it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to not spiritually bypass. Accept where you're at, whatever challenges and whatever problems you have, don't worry. There's thousands of those with the same problem in the same situation. But the difference between them and you, which could be today, is do something about it. I want to help you do something about it. Pull you up and let's go higher and let's start learning how to think and get our foundation right, because that's our responsibility to Krishna. That's Lord Nityananda too. He says in Bhadro Bhadro Bhai Chaitanya Nitai in the second verse, to give up sense gratification. Oh, well, what's that got to do with sense gratification? Feeling sorry for myself. That's subtle sense gratification. We have to take 100% ownership to get our thinking and our lives together. Then Krishna will really help us. Because then he can help us. Why? Because our attitude's right. It means I'm responsible for getting myself at least to a certain level here. Then Krishna will help. But if we're stuck in the mud and turning and just not really where we want to be, and we're just justifying that, Krishna can't help us. Why? Because you haven't taken responsibility for anything yet. Our problems and where we're at is our problem. It's our issue. So I've gone a little bit deep at the end here just to show you how it's really important once we start on this journey, particularly if you ever come into the TiB Bhakti program, where after 90 days you get practical things going, or your first 6 months, then you start to really knuckle down and actually start building that foundation where you can actually be sort of more mode of goodness. Externally, people can look in the mode of goodness, by the way. But when someone's rattled, or when things aren't going right or something, that's the test as well. But I hope it's been interesting and I hope it's been useful. And I'll be, talking about this more and more and more and more. And I recommend just listening to my podcasts on Spotify, Thriving Bhakti, here on, if you're on Facebook, I actually have a Facebook page, Thriving Bhakti, and also a YouTube channel. So you can subscribe, please like, please add comments. Look, I don't have the perfect system. I'm just a normal devotee and I had practical experience. I coach young men for 12 years living with us. So I've learned a lot about how to just get devotees to practically be able to sustain and get moving and have that foundation where they become more resilient and more able to take control and deal with the challenges the material world's going to throw at them with all the responsibilities, so they can keep their sadhana, spiritual life together and keeping this together, because it all depends on what's up here. How strong you are up here will depend what happens on the outside. All right, Hare Krishna.